First, let me apologize for the technical difficulties. We didn't anticipate them. We had a meeting here this morning and everything was working fine. But Murphy's Law once again prevails. So in any case, for those of you who don't know me, I am the mayor of the city, Dan Rizzo, and I want to thank all of you residents who live in and around Winthrop Avenue for being here this morning to talk about an issue that I wish we didn't have to talk about, but nonetheless has become an all too much of a reality here to us in local government to get it fixed and get it serviced so that all of you and your neighbors have a valid and working solution to your sewer needs that really, in this particular case, services 20% of the city. You all may know that a sewer line, we had a major sewer break or actual cave-in of a sewer line on Winthrop Avenue. It's got to be probably a month and a half, 2 months ago now. And you may notice the police details out there with the bypass pump that is taking sewerage out of the system and bypassing the area of collapse where the sewer line lies. The problem with this particular sewer line is that it lies about 20 feet underneath the ground, and it has multiple other pipes around it, gas lines, telephone infrastructure, water, MWRA lines, and storm drains. It's on and on and on as to how much actually exists underneath the ground. And so having to maneuver around all of the existing infrastructure to get to this collapse 20 feet underneath the ground is going to be a real major undertaking. And sad to say, it's going to be quite an inconvenience for people living in that area or working in that area because, obviously this is going to, at times, close the entire stretch of Winthrop Avenue from around Victoria Street all the way to Route 16. But it is a necessary repair. It's not something that the city is undertaking because we want to. We absolutely have to. And the reality is, as we sit here today, that pipe that collapsed is at risk of further collapsing up the street if we don't get on this right away. And should that happen and the ground shifts as a result of this collapse, some of the impacts could really be catastrophic in that area, which is why we wanted to call this public meeting to bring this all to your attention as to what actually is happening, how we will be proceeding ahead in terms of fixing this problem. I mean, we're confident and we know for sure that at the end of this, you're going to have a much better and functioning system that you have currently had. And I wish it didn't have to come by way of an emergency repair, but nonetheless, that's what we have to deal with, and that's what we have been doing. So I'm very confident with the help of people that are here, and I'll introduce some people that are here now that have taken time to be with us. Some will actually be speaking, some are here to answer questions, and some here will be presenting what you have here in front of you. We have first off, who I'll call up in a couple of minutes, the ward councilor from this area, Richard Penta. We have, let me see, our superintendent of public works, Don Goodwin, our city engineer, Nick Rystrom, Ward 4 city councilor, Steve Reardon, city councilor at large, Bob Hass, city councilor, John Correggio, and City Council President Ira Novoselsky. Anybody else that I'm missing? From CDM Smith, we have John Doherty, who you'll be hearing from in just a couple of moments. And I think that's it. I think I've covered just about everybody. So I want to thank them, obviously, for being here and participating in this obviously important and very, very critical project that the city has to undertake. It is going to be a rather lengthy project, though I've been assured by CDM Smith, our engineering firm, along with Albanese, Albanese Construction, our contractors, that they are going to go as quickly and deliberately as they possibly can to make these repairs. Obviously, though, making these repairs in a proper manner. We want to go as fast as we can, but we don't want to go so fast that we don't do the job the right way. So, but I have assurances from both of those firms that they will proceed as quickly and as deliberately as they possibly can. But I want to assure you that we as a city are going to do everything we possibly can to mitigate the amount of pain and aggravation that you as residents of that area are going to have to endure. As I said at the outset, I wish I didn't have to be sitting here having this conversation with you all, but as I say, in the not too distant future, this will be a memory, and you'll have a better system than you currently have had for a number of years. These are old pipes that we have in the ground, and as you may have seen at maybe some of our meetings we've had prior, we're currently under a consent decree that was handed down by the Department of Justice via the DEP and EPA, who has mandated that the City of Revere address our aging infrastructure. And obviously, we've been trying to address those needs in a way that is not by way of emergency repairs. We want to do that by planning and implementation. In this case, we have to do it as an emergency repair, and but we're confident that it fits right into something that we would have had to have done anyway, because these pipes, particularly our sewer and drainage pipes, have been in the ground for a long time, and by and large neglected. So we're stuck as members of local government and residents to kind of pick up the pieces and carry the ball forward. As I say, from my perspective as your mayor, we're going to do it, in a way that causes you, our residents, the least amount of disruption. So rather than speak anymore, I'm going to start to get the program going. Oh, I see Ward 5 City Councilor John Powers is with us. John, thank you. I'd like to call up your Ward 1 Councilor, which this project is being done, Richard Penta.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to be brief, but I want to thank the Mayor, first of all, and a bunch of city councilors are here today. We've been in meetings on this for the past 6 weeks, and trust me, it's a nightmare for every politician to have something like this happen. Unfortunately, it has to get done, and the impact is going to be on the residents of the area. But when we sat down, they could have band-aided this and fixed just in front of Lily Park. But 6 months later, we would have to come back to the drawing board and then do the whole pipe. Thanks to the mayor, the city council bonded this whole project to get everything done. While they're in there were some pluses to this. You're gonna get a brand new gas line. You're gonna get a brand new water line, which is outdated. So you're gonna get it quicker than you would have, because that was probably a couple years down the road anyway, and if that didn't break. But those are positive, but I'm not gonna stand here and say you people aren't gonna be impacted. And that's when we sat down with the mayor and the city council, we said we're gonna do everything to notify the people, put a flyer, a 911 call, and let them know what they're gonna be facing. And trust me, your concerns are all our concerns. We're going to try to have the least amount of impact. Are you going to be impacted? Yes. Traffic flow is going to be diverted through other areas. We're going to try to have the least amount of impact on the side streets. The MBTA hasn't come up with their plan yet, but that will be sent out to you people as soon as they do. But anybody has any questions on this as the project starts and goes on, which actually already started. Someone said, what did it take us so long? I mean, you got to do this right. This pipe's 24 feet in the ground. I think it's 12 or 15% of the city. DigSafe, the MBTA, there's a lot of agencies that had an MWRA, a lot of people that I can contact with and get the right information and make sure it's done right. They had a couple of ways they could have went. They're going the safest way, and the mayor spared no cost in this thing, with the details out there, and they got a pump there that's being watched 24 hours, because God forbid that went down for a short time. You could really be infected. But I think I'm going to leave it up to the experts to explain everything, and I'm going to be here to listen to your questions and your input, because you may have an answer here. More heads are better than a few, trust me, because you may say, instead of going that way or a detour, you're going to affect too many people that's going the other way. But I think they try to come up with the most sensible way to impact the least amount of people. But like I said, unfortunately, this has to get done, and we'll try to make it as painless as possible. But any questions during the project or anything else, my number's on the phone, on the TV, and I'll give it out now, 978-648-0091. I have that on me 24 hours, 24/7. It's my cell phone. But like I said, I feel confident the mayor's got the right people doing this, the engineers. This is what they're good at. We hired the best. And I just hope it goes smooth. And they're going to be working 16 hours to get this over with. So they're not going to, like I said, the least short of time, the less impact. So I'll leave that to the experts to explain it. I'll listen to your questions later. Thank you.
Hello, my name's John Doherty. I'm with CDM Smith, and I'm the project director for this project. We got the portable microphone working, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just assume that you may not have all the details of what happened, and I'll touch again on what the mayor said and just explain the issue, try to show you what the solution is. Another engineer with me, Mike Judici, will get into the details of the repair, and then I'm going to touch briefly on the traffic issue, and then we'll open it up for questions. Thank you. So as I go along here, I'm going to pull some boards up next to me just to talk, and this is going to try to make this somewhat informal as I can. And so when this is when we're done here, feel free to come up and look at these posters, and we'll be hanging around to answer specific questions. Right out in front of the park, there's an 18-inch old clay sewer pipe. That sewer pipe is over 100 years old, so that was being inspected and cleaned out. As it was being inspected and cleaned out, we saw that it was in poor condition. A section of it actually collapsed, and so the city came right in, DPW came in, set up portable pumping equipment. So when we looked at where that sewer was, normally you would just say, okay, we collapsed the section, how do we go fix it? So as the mayor indicated, this is a very deep sewer. So the red line on this sketch here shows you where the sewer is down at the bottom. And what made it difficult to fix is that there are several other utilities in the street, but most importantly, there are two rather large MWRA water distribution mains that run down Winthrop Ave. They serve Revere, but they also serve some other communities on the North Shore. And one is a 16-inch water main, and one is a 24-inch water main. So that in itself, and those water mains are 10 or 12 feet above this sewer. So it made it difficult to get underneath to that specific location. Seeing that condition, talking to the MWRA about how that would impact them if we lost one of those water mains, it would basically wash out the whole street, fill the park up with water. It would be a legitimate disaster. So what we decided to do was, seeing the condition of the pipe and as poor it was, and knowing that it would eventually need to be replaced, said instead of doing the one spot repair, that we would replace the pipe from approximately the corner of Elm Street up to Revere Beach Parkway. So to do that, we need to get away from the MWA water mains and get out in the other travel lane. And so the yellow line on this sketch represents the new the new sewer main. So what will happen is a contractor will come in, he will start, most likely he'll start at the Elm Street end, and he'll work his way down towards Revere Beach Parkway. At any time, only about 30 feet of the street will be opened up. So people who, luckily there's the daycare center and maybe a half a dozen houses that are immediately impacted. The road will remain open to local traffic from Beach Street down to about Victoria and down to Elm when it can be kept open. There'll be traffic signs and indications so that people who are on Beach Street heading for Winthrop, they won't be able to just run, travel down there. It's going to be local traffic only. They're going to be, those people will be encouraged to go around that area and say they want to continue on to Revere Beach Parkway. They'll be tried to push around either to the Parkway or to Harris Street or other routes they may know. This will affect, I think, approximately 3 bus stops on Winthrop Ave. So right now we've been working with the MBTA to figure out how the buses would be rerouted, and as Councilor Penta said, once we know that, we'll provide that information to you. So what you can see is that yellow line is the new sewer line. When we get near the end of Winthrop Ave, we need to get the sewer out to the large collector sewer that's in the middle of Revere Beach Parkway. So to do that, these red squares represent what we call jacking pits. And so what the contractor will do is he'll dig these 3 deep holes, and so that we don't dig up Revere Beach Parkway and stop traffic everywhere, they'll literally push the pipes through the ground and pull the dirt out from inside of them, and they'll get out onto above that interceptor sewer, what we call an interceptor sewer in the middle of Revere Beach Parkway, and they'll make that final connection. We're hoping that this work will start in 2 to 3 weeks. We've been working with the MWRA. Maybe it's more like 3 to 4 weeks that it starts, but you could see the gas company out there in a few weeks. So, as Councilor Penta said, you'll get a new gas line. There's a 100-year-old cast iron gas pipe in the middle of that street. That's going to be dug up right away first. There's also an older water main that will be replaced. So those things will all be replaced as part of this project. Once the contractor gets going, as I said, the street will be closed off, and we'll be working closely with all of you residents to provide, inconvenience you as little as possible. At all times, there will be a police officer on the site, there'll be somebody from DPW on the site, and when the contractor is working, whether it's 12 hours a day or 16 hours a day, there will be a CDM Smith resident engineer on the site. So he's always available to speak with, as is the DPW or the police, but the CDM resident engineer will reach out, especially to the people who live closest in that section, and try to make sure you understand what the contractor's doing and that we understand what your needs are in getting to your properties. So the example would be for the folks who are living in these homes kind of just to the east of where the break was. If the contractor's not out in front of your property, we're going to try to make it so that you can still get there with your vehicle. For anybody along that stretch where the contractor's digging, there may be 2, 3, or 4 days where you can't get your vehicle right to your yard, but we'll make provisions for you to park somewhere nearby so you only have a very short walk. The other issue that we're as concerned about is the MBTA. So people who use the buses, how much are you going to be inconvenienced in terms of having to walk up to the corner of Beach and Winthrop to catch a bus? Can the MBTA buses really get down some of those side streets? Like I don't really think they can go down Victoria or some of the other small side streets. So some of that's going to be an issue with the MBTA. But and again, if this work starts in earnest in the next couple of weeks, we want it to be done before Christmas, and have the contractor be out of there. There'd be temporary paving in place, and then what you would see is next spring they would come back in, after the ground settles, the bad winter months, they would come back in and then they would repave the whole run that was dug up. So you won't, when it's done at Christmas, you will not have like a brand new street. You'll have a trench in that street. The street will still be a little bit beat up, but it makes no sense to final pave that at that time because it will just settle anyway. And so it'll be passable and all. But again, the buses are going to be rerouted, and pretty much when the contractor really gets going, there won't be just one lane open. There'll be no lanes open between Elm and Revere Beach Parkway. So with that, I'm going to let Mike Judici show.
So you figure 6 to 7 hours worth of work time.
Yeah, we're going to, and what we would expect to do is provide more information to you. What will happen is the contractor that we're trying to work with, he's getting ready to order all the materials. He's working on his schedule and how he would execute the work. Once that information is made available to us of his proposed schedule, we'll provide that information to everybody.
How many feet are they placing?
They're placing it's approximately 900 feet. It's about 700 feet along Winthrop and about 200 feet that is going to be jacked from Winthrop out into Revere Beach Parkway.
And then estimated cost?
The estimated cost at this time is around $1.5 million. But again, that number's not, we need to sit down with the contractor and we provided him some information. Right, okay. So before we keep going questions, let me stop here and let me turn it over to Mike Judici, who's with CDM Smith. He's been working on the detailed design. He'll just provide you with a little more information. I'll touch briefly on traffic, and then we'll be happy to talk and answer questions as long as you'd like.
Thanks, John. Again, my name is Mike Judici from CDM Smith. I don't want to go into a lot of great detail here, but certainly pick up on some of the points that John mentioned, and as he indicated, will be available to answer any questions either during this meeting or after. As John indicated, this is a difficult area to do this construction. The plan here, and hopefully you can see it, is showing Winthrop Ave from Elm Street, and this gets partway down to the Parkway. The break occurred roughly in this location. The existing sewer is on the south side of the street. So the plan is, as John said, the existing sewer right now is below two very large MWRA water mains. And in order to, it would not be possible to fix that pipe where it stands without impacting those mains. So what we came up with is a plan to install the new sewer on the opposite side of the street in the northern travel lane, which is actually heading west. In order to do that, as John indicated, there is a gas main and a water main that will need to be relocated. So the first part of the project will include relocating that gas main. There is it's a 10-inch cast iron main that's in the northern side of the street. They're going to replace that with a 12-inch plastic gas main. So we've been coordinating with National Grid to get that underway, and they're working on mobilizing their crews as we speak. So this is essentially just a plan and a profile view which shows the relative depth of the new sewer. This is going to be a 36-inch sewer. It's roughly 24 to 25 feet deep along the stretch of the replacement. Again, we'll connect to an existing manhole that is located at the Elm Street intersection and divert the flow to the northern travel lane and then down toward Revere Beach Park. So as John indicated, that portion of the construction will be what we call open cut. So that's typically what people are used to seeing. It will literally be a 25-foot deep trench that will be cut in this street on that northern side of the road. Once we get down further toward the parkway, we're going to utilize that small turning lane that allows you to go onto the parkway and install what John had referred to as a jacking pit at this location. So what that allows us to do is install sewer in two directions, actually. The first toward the Revere Beach Parkway interceptor and the other toward Winthrop Ave. So the idea is that this portion of the alignment will actually not be open cut construction, with obviously the exception of the pits, but that pipe will be pushed in from those pits underground without disturbing the traffic above ground. So that what that allows us to do is avoid having to excavate around those MWRA water mains as we cross them. So the pipe will be pushed beneath those pits from one to the other. And again, this shows roughly the limits of the gas main relocation shown in pink and the water main relocation shown in blue. So the gas main, will, as I indicated, will happen first. The water main, because it's going to be in the vicinity of the final sewer location, we're actually going to have to set up some temporary water mains on both sides of the streets to serve all the properties. So During construction, the water service will continue from those temporary mains, and then once the sewer is installed, we'll come back in and put the new water main on the other side of the street. I think that's, you want to chat about traffic a little bit, John?
So I'm just going to touch briefly on traffic and then take questions. So on these boards here, we've tried to outline the area. And so the yellow highlighted area is intended to show what we think would be a good traffic reroute at this point. So we understand that people who know the way around the city will use the streets they want to use, but there will be signs set up to if somebody is coming from the Suffolk Downs area heading down Winthrop Ave and they were heading to Broadway and they were unaware of this, there'll be signage there to send them on to Revere Beach Parkway and loop around back up to Broadway. Again, somebody who knows their way around might try to run down Harris Street. Other people might get to that intersection and just take Revere Beach Parkway up to Bell Circle, depending on the traffic conditions. But, you know, I think the biggest issue for us is, and I think for you too, is going to be, you know, how do you not have, you know, large vehicles that otherwise wouldn't be on your streets? How do you keep them off your streets? And we'll be working closely with the police department, and as we see how traffic is going the first couple of days of the shutdown, we'll work to improve that. Again, we've reached out to the MBTA. We've spoken with a couple of folks over there, including their bus scheduler and bus router. They're going to sit down with us and see what they can do about, you know, making the best improvements to the bus service. Certainly the buses cannot get down some of those narrow side streets. So we'll work with them on how can the buses get to the bus stops that they used to get to as close as possible, so people don't have to walk an extra 2, 3, or 4 blocks. And again, I think that as we work with the MBTA, then we would come back to you and try to address it, you know, individual concerns. Okay, with that, I'm going to open it up to questions, and Councilor Carriggio has a question.
2 questions. There's a daycare center at Conrad Elm and Winthrop Avenue. How will that compare that? And also the other question is the area going to be baited once these trenches are done?
So I'll answer your second question first. Absolutely, the contractor will be required to have a program for rat control. So what he's referring to is that sometimes, it's not all the time, and sometimes we see it and sometimes we don't, but sometimes when you're doing projects where you're excavating, you might see an increase in rodents and stuff. It doesn't always happen, but nonetheless, what the contractor is required to do is to hire a exterminator specialist, and they go out and keep an eye on the area and they see what's going on. And usually if it does start to happen, the exterminator stays right on top of it. So I just want you to know that that's a normal part of construction. In all the other work that's been going on in the city, we typically specify that the contractor provide that service. And so, you know, and again, if you start to see something, you have issues, certainly let us know right away. But, you know, sometimes it is a problem, but it's not guaranteed to be a problem. On the issue relative to the daycare center there, we understand that that's an issue, and we're going to work closely. I think prior to this meeting, the city engineer spoke with the daycare owner, and we're going to sit down with them and make sure they understand what's going on and try to provide continued access to that property. Again, there may be a day or so where the contractor is literally right out in front of that and they can't get into their driveway. We'll try to make, we'll try to set aside parking spaces maybe on Elm Street or somewhere else, but we're going to try to, again, inconvenience people as little as possible.
You alluded to a 12 to 15-hour workday.
What?
Is that 7 days a week?
That would be up to the city and somewhat to the contractor. That we're going to, with the city's blessing, we're going to encourage the contractor to work as much as possible. So what we've, on jobs like this before, what we've seen is often a 6-day schedule where we can have somebody, the contractor agrees to try to work as long as it makes sense. Is it 10 hours? Is it 12 hours? What's the weather conditions? How much lighting do you got to bring in and stuff? And then maybe sometimes you might have them doing stuff on a Saturday. Probably wouldn't be on a Sunday. But again, we'd like to get in and out of there, and to the sense that we can avoid any bad weather. The sooner we're done, the better it is for everybody.
One more. What about interrupted services? How long, are you anticipating long outages, short outages? I mean, I know everything can happen, but what is your anticipation?
We're anticipating that we will people who have their water or sewer service inconvenienced is a fairly small number because of where the park is and the buildings on the other side. Our goal is to not inconvenience them. But there may be a kind of situation where we say, okay, we need to be right out, we need to disconnect something and reconnect something. Maybe we do that at night. But those are situations where we would be working one-on-one with the individual homeowner to address that issue. Or if need be, if it was something where they'd actually be out longer, we would address that by some portable nature ahead of time. We would set up a portable system, make the connection so they wouldn't notice the difference. But in situations where we're breaking connections and all, sometimes there is a short window.
Thank you very much.
Can you run through the yellow name of the streets that you say alternate routes? The red, I assume, is Winthrop Ave, right?
Correct.
What are the other routes there? I mean, cutting across that line, it looks like Harris Street.
Okay, I'm gonna let DPW Superintendent Don Goodwin address that.
Right here is the top of Harris Street.
They want you to speak into the mic. Okay.
Right here at the top of Harris Street is the Revere Beach Parkway intersection. We're going to make sure that people don't access the construction site. So we're going to try to send them down Route 16, down to Broadway to come back in this way. Or you can take Route 16 back towards Bell Circle and come Broadway this way.
You know what? Why don't you go up there and I'll hold the
Okay. What we're going to try to do is avoid the neighborhoods as much as possible. Obviously, we're going to have a problem with the bus routes. We're waiting for the MBTA to come in with their finalized plans. But what we're trying to do, down in the Sewell Street area, Butler Street area, down that way, we want to make it as easy for the people who live in that area as opposed to allowing the commuters to keep coming both ways on Harris Street. So initially, we're going to use Harris Street as a one-way, which will lessen the light cycle at the top of the street, which will keep the traffic, try to keep the traffic flowing out of the neighborhoods as opposed into the neighborhoods. So we're going to try to keep them on Route 16, down to Broadway, or up Route 16 to Bell Circle, and then they can travel on Beach Street the other way to Central or Beach Street. Yes?
I wonder if anything about the lights on Harris Street, Winthrop Ave, and Route 16. Because in the morning and the afternoon, the traffic is totally congested because you've got a full minute coming from the beach and only 30 seconds on the others. And I sit there for 30 seconds every single morning with no cars coming from the beach, none whatsoever.
Well, under this current plan, you will not be able to come from the beach to Harris Street. You'll only be able to come up Harris Street towards the Parkway.
But the thing is, the lights are geared so that it's only coming from the beach to get, so they get a full minute.
Well,
only 30
it is a longer light cycle. I'm sure once we get the plan, the total plan from the MBTA and the DCR, then we will make adjustments to that. As John alluded to earlier, We're going to put the plan into action, see how it reacts to the traffic in the general neighborhood, and we'll make adjustments to that as needed. Yes, ma'am.
Victoria Street already gets a lot of 16 traffic. People cut through and they're coming this way, they'll take a U-turn, come down Victoria, go Broadway. How are you going to stop them and make them go all the way down 16 to Broadway and taking that cut into Victoria?
We are going to have signage up along Route 16 to try to push the traffic along down Route 16. There will be police officers assigned to the area to deal with any specific problems that we see are generating. So we have a lot of flexibility here with signage, the use of Revere Police Department to take that, because I believe, as you do, is that most people that live in the area know how to transgress the neighborhoods. And this is what we're going to try to discourage as best we can.
Donnie, I live in 173 Winthrop Ave. That is between Victoria and Winthrop Ave. Is Victoria Street going to be closed?
Victoria Street will not be closed to local traffic. It will be closed to any traffic. Obviously, if Winthrop Avenue is closed, you will not be able to access Winthrop Avenue, Victoria Street, unless you are a resident in the area. And what this woman alluded to is trying to keep the people off of Route 16 from coming up Victoria to regain access back onto Winthrop Avenue so they can continue up towards Beach Street and Central Avenue.
How about the Winthrop Avenue after going towards Broadway? Is that going to be closed, that part there in front of the house?
It will not. It'll be open to people, but the only people who will be able to access that directly will be the people from the neighborhood. Okay.
Excuse me, one more question. Is that on Winthrop Avenue, is that what's going to be fixed? What I live in Victoria?
Yes.
Winthrop, is that because it's really bad? It's a big paving the street. You can't walk by.
That's going to be a long-term approach that John, we discussed it earlier. That pipe needs to be replaced at some point all the way up to Broadway. Right now we're working in this area, but eventually we'll be replacing that entire pipe, even the pipe that was replaced about 20 years ago, all the way up to Broadway.
In front of my house, there's a sidewalk. It was digged up for a sewer problem there. There was a pipe that was broken about 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It never got fixed. It's still the asphalt there. And the car when there's no barrier in front of the street of Winthrop Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
The car was going so fast that it went right in my porch. At night, and nobody heard it. They just left. The car left. And the tree on that side is hit because they go down so fast down the street. You need to fix the sidewalk.
And that's 173, you said?
Yes, 173 Winthrop Avenue. Because people go walk by, kids, and the cars go so fast they can hit something.
Well, if you remember a couple of years ago, they did repair the whole street out front there. They repaved everything. But that goes back to the problem that we have with this pipe, the entire length. Previously, when that pipe was put in, out because that's where the newer portion of the pipe is, believe it or not, it's in front of your house. It's settled away from, it keeps sinking. Now, a lot of you people had problems in that area with the chimney that comes out of your house. The pipe that comes out of your house doesn't go 20 feet into the ground and connect into the main trunk line. It comes out and ties into a chimney higher up. So what happened with the settlement of that newer pipe, it keeps sinking and sinking. If you look at the video on the pipe, it's almost like a snake, and that affects the flow from Broadway all the way to the interceptor. So we could go back and refix that street. Within a short period of time, it's going to start to keep going down. So the idea, and I know CDM Smith is working on this, and I think it's around the 2017 construction season, 2016 construction season. The idea would be to replace that entire line all the way up to Broadway.
Yeah, this particular project is really from approximately the corner of Elm and Victoria to Revere Beach Parkway. As Donnie mentioned, it is understood that there's problems in the sewer along Winthrop Ave, And in a year or two, or possibly 3, depending on how things go, in all likelihood, we'll be back here again to talk about continuing the rest of the way back up Winthrop Ave to Broadway. But today, in this particular project with the available funding and the issue at hand, we're really going from approximately the corner of Elm and Victoria to the Revere Beach Parkway. So I think your specific issue, right in front of your property and all, is something that Donnie and Nick and the city can work with you on, but it's not part of this project, but we do understand what you're talking about.
How long is this project gonna last?
Hopefully we'll be able to get this done sometime before Christmas.
Really?
Yes. Right, that she's been, go right ahead. Yes. Go right ahead.
I guess I have a technical question. For the property.
I don't believe there's going to be any impact to your sidewalks. There will be, however, restrictions to your driveway. There will be times where they're in front of your property that you'll have a 30-foot open pit that you will not be able to obviously transgress from your property onto the public way. So Mick and I have talked about this, especially concerning your property. We're going to try to come up with something. We come up with some metal plating where we'd be able to temporarily put down some metal plating where maybe you can come in and park there for your employees for the day, have a drop-off lane on Elm Street so that the people can come and go. It'll be dedicated just to the daycare center. And if we can work it out where we can get these metal plates, you would be able to have yourself and your employees be able to come into your lot and have your parking for the day. Now, there may be a few days where we may not be able to do that, but for the most part, you will be able to access your property. But there will be days during this project that you will not be able to do that.
But no individual property lines will have to be dug up or whatnot for all these.
No, there'll be re-tie-ins in it. Yeah, just the re-tie-ins on the. Well, temporarily you're going to have water service. We're going to put a temporary water line in, so they'll have to put a temporary water line into your property. But there should be no excavations on private property. This woman over here, please.
Hi, the first part of the project you said was the gas pipes.
Yes.
Will that include any interruption in service to right under 202 right across from McNabb?
I would think at some point during the course of this, there'll be some type of disruption to your service. I don't think it'll be lengthy. I think they'll probably put this entire pipe in and then tie you in on an individual basis so that, as they're going down, they'll reconnect you as they put the line in.
I'll touch on that.
Okay.
So relative to the gas company is very cognizant of the cold weather coming. And so, they are eager to get out there and work. We've talked to not only their scheduling people, but their construction people. But again, our resident engineer, gas company folks would talk with anybody who might be inconvenienced for some short period of time. And when I say that, the gas company usually doesn't want to have you without gas service for more than 6 to 8 hours. So it's not like you're going to not have your gas service for a couple of days. The way they do the work is they go down and their goal is to have everybody reconnected, and they're eager to go just because they know the cold weather's coming. In fact, the city had to really push on the gas company to make them cooperate and do this work, because if they had their way, they'd say, well, let's wait till next year because we don't like to do a lot of construction work this late in the season. So again, people who are specifically on that run will be closely, in communication with the city staff and also the contractor, and really through the contractor, the resident engineer.
Yes, ma'am.
What about the other businesses on Winthrop? I'm a business owner at 166. If we have to go 3-4 days without access to our parking lot.
That's you're north of Elm Street?
I'm embarrassed to say I don't know.
Okay. No, you'll be able to get to that portion of Winthrop Avenue. The only section of Winthrop Avenue, John will show you, is in the red. It's in red, and that'll be from Elm Street to Revere Beach Parkway. Everywhere else you'll have access to.
And our customers coming in will have access?
They'll have, the customers will have access coming in. They will not have access out down Winthrop Ave to Revere Beach Parkway. They will have to go back towards Beach Street. Yes, but they can come in, yes. Yes, ma'am.
We've also been on Victoria Street marking up the sidewalk. Are we going to be done up in any way? Or is that separate from this project? But in the last week or so, they've been down there marking on our sidewalks.
I'm going to shut down. Yeah, yes. So just so you know, one of the things that happened is when we realized the predicament that we were in with the sewer pipe in the MWA water mains on Winthrop Ave. One of the things we did was we thought briefly about did it make sense from a financial and scheduling point of view to put a new sewer down Victoria, okay? And we ended up saying, no, that's not a good idea. But in preparation for that and wanting to understand our choices, we called the organization called DigSafe. And we notified, basically DigSafe is an organization that notifies all the utility companies, and so we basically put the word out that we want you to go DigSafe Victoria, and as we were thinking about it, if it became a realistic solution that made more sense from any number of views, then the next thing we would have done is we would have taken some borings down Victoria, and then we'd all be sitting here talking about digging up Victoria. But that didn't come to light. We were just trying to make sure that we were evaluating the right options to resolve this problem. So they did paint your street up a bit, but we're not going that way.
You just have to notify the detail officer, and obviously you'll have your child or you're going there at the end of the day to pick them up, that you are there. I believe that as people learn how to do this, they're going to be going probably down Sewell Street and up Elm Street, because we'll have that drop-off lane on the right-hand side of the building, which will make it easier for you to get back onto Winthrop Avenue to vacate the area.
Then the second question, you talked about diverting the traffic up on Broadway, which during the rush hour is a very busy street, Broadway, and that will delay traffic twice as much probably. What is the plan to kind of decrease the amount of traffic that Broadway, which is already a very beat up street?
Well, it would be going to Broadway in two different directions. Obviously from Bell Circle to Broadway, and from Revere Beach Parkway to Broadway. That's something we're going to have to evaluate as the traffic flows, and if we have to make changes to the traffic patterns that are presently being shown on this thing, we will do so. But that'll be up to the traffic division of the Revere Police Department.
And then the third question that I have is, I know that this is going to impact a lot the daycare center and other business. And he mentioned that the project was for $1.5 million. Have you guys put aside any money to compensate the lost business for the business on Winthrop Ave?
I am not aware of any, no.
Is that something that you've thought about in your meetings, or?
No, this is just a function of government. This is an emergency. This is not something that we've planned to, put people out of business somewhat. Obviously, we have to fix the pipe, and it's going to be for a very short period of time, hopefully, and it'll have not as big as negative impact as people think it may be. I mean, we're all sick about this. Myself, the whole city staff that's been working on this program. It's not like, we planned this to do this. This is something that it's an emergency. It needs to be done, and it needs to be done in a timely fashion. So we're trying to work on this as quickly as possible to alleviate all the other inconveniences that go along with a project of this size. Yes?
Yes, the homes that are affected, those four homes right here, which I'm in, will they be structurally sound, where they're in a clay pit?
No, they'll be...
because of this construction, will they be affected? I mean,
No, there'll be structural pilings put in to protect both the city's sidewalk and the MWA pipeline, and then they'll leave that in place, and they'll probably cut it 4 feet below the surface. So if anything, it's probably going to shore up the sidewalk and the surrounding utilities.
They're not up the sidewalk on your front of the house.
Right.
They're not digging that sidewalk.
No, we're not digging up that sidewalk.
So on the again, the markings that you see were just because there are utilities on the sidewalk. And so, just to clarify, the contractor, right now, we believe the contractor will be able to go down the other travel lane, will not impact the sidewalk. Should it come to be that he damages the sidewalk or he needs to damage the sidewalk, it would then be completely replaced. And then to touch on the settlement of your house or whatever, you shouldn't be concerned about that. What's going to happen is if the contractor has to dig down, 25, 28 feet, what he'll actually do, one of the things you'll see going on is they'll be driving large steel plates down into the ground. So the excavation, while it's 25 feet deep, it's only likely to be about 8 feet wide. So it'll be down, there'll be these plates down into the ground, they'll be braced so that the soil on either side is not moving. And we would not expect there to be any issues with people's homes. And we actually, one of the things we have to do is coordinate this with the Mass Water Resources Authority because of those large diameter water mains. So we can't even risk having those shift at all. So that is not expected to be a problem for you, anybody.
If I leave my house, would I be able to go to the pathway from my house north? Are those lights going to still be working?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, you should. Most of the time, you should be able to come out of your property and go left. There may be a period of time when the contractor is digging those large jacking pits that his equipment is blocking the roadway, and you would be encouraged or pushed to go to the right and go down Elm and stuff. But again, just to be clear, on any given day, there's probably not counting the jacking pits, which we may have to try to do them as fast as we can, and they may be open longer. But on any given day along Winthrop Ave, there's probably only 30 or 40 feet of roadway that's opened up. Now around that there might be construction equipment, and they'll try to be filling back in, and there'll be plates on the ground. So we can't have through traffic going through there. But if you live right there, we'll be working with you to say, today can you park on this side street and walk to your house, but oh yeah, it's pretty good now. You can get down here and get it. Yeah, you can get it. But we're going to do everything in our power to help you get access to your property. Yeah.
If I may, just a quick clarification, just so that there's no misunderstanding, that during the day, during work period, you're generally not going to be able to come in and out as you please, drive into your property. So as John indicated, on those days, you're likely to park somewhere else, and then if you need access to your home, you're going to need to walk in. Because once that construction starts, although, as John said, the excavation will be limited somewhat, as you can imagine, this is a big undertaking. There's a lot going on. There's materials, there's pipe, there's soil, there's backfill, gravel material, there's all the equipment. So that's going to occupy a large part of that section of the street that's going to be shut down. So during working hours, I don't want you to get the impression you're going to be able to come in and out of your house as you are today. So,
Four of us, we're all working to be in and out.
and as John said, the contractor and the resident engineers in the city certainly will work with you the best we can to minimize that disruption. We're going to have to designate some specific areas where you'll be allowed to park and walk to your property. Typically, contractors will work with the trash. They'll literally walk it down the street to an area where the trash trucks can get to, so that, or the city would help in that endeavor. And just one other quick point on the sidewalks. Just again, don't want any misunderstanding. As Mr. Goodwin mentioned, there will be some temporary water mains installed. Those generally would go in the sidewalk area. And once those new permanent connections to the new water main are made, there will be some disruption in the sidewalk, and as John indicated, those areas would be repaired as needed. So It's going to get messy. I don't want anyone to think it's going to be neat and clean and we're going to in and out and you won't notice it. It's going to be tough, but we're going to do what we can to mitigate the impacts to everybody.
What if kids walk up and down to go to school on the sidewalks? Is that maybe wrong with the kids walking up and down?
That has been discussed with the Revere Police Department. They're still working on something of that nature, but I would imagine at both ends of the extreme ends of the project, you'd be able to go to the southerly side of that sidewalk, and you would be able to get police that would make sure they can stay on the Little League side park away from the construction zone. A lot of the kids that do come down, there's a lot more kids that actually come down from the Shirley Ave area up on the backside of the Heights, down around Green Street and on the Parkway. I think that the police officer, our point would be to send them down Harris Street and then back up either Sewell or one of the other side streets to keep them away from the zone, because obviously we want to keep children out of harm's way. It's just the kids that may live exactly in that small work area that they're going to need some help from the city to get their children to school safely.
And the rats too, because the sewer was loaded from the last time they did the lines on Sewer Street Avenue. So where this pipe is so far and so low, there's probably going to be a big.
Well, as John said, previous to Sewell Street, a lot of these new laws have been put into place, and now you are required by law to make sure that all these areas are going to be baited. So they'll be baited previously to even doing any work, and then they'll have an extermination company on site to make sure if any problems arise that they can deal with the problem immediately. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
I live at Industrial condominiums, and our parking lot has an entrance onto Revere Beach Parkway where the turnaround is. So people usually come around that turnaround and use the back of our building to access Winthrop Ave. Can we get a sign that says no access to Winthrop Ave so we can...
Sure, that's a good idea. That didn't even cross my mind, but I do know that happens quite frequently, because as we're working on there, we see them coming to avoid the light or to going all the way up to Bell Circle. Yes, that wouldn't be a problem. Tony?
Can I ask you a question? From Haddon, from Victoria left to Haddon Street. Now, when you park on the street, is there going to be equipment or they're going to store anything on that street? Do they need to park, take away? Because there's only so many parking spots on, if you park from that down.
Presently, no, Tony. They're going to be mobilizing up the far end away from that area, so I don't believe you'll be seeing any equipment parked in front of your homes. Right. Right. But we'll make sure that that's going to, because the project hasn't started yet, and once they overtake that area, the road will be completely closed down, and you'll be able to remobilize to get the equipment out of the way. Presently, if they take that equipment out onto Winthrop Ave, it's just going to make it less safe and more congested, so that's why the equipment's on Victoria now. That I understand. Yeah, it's a good question. Yes.
I was just thinking, there are going to be some people who aren't going to be able to get to their houses to park, so they're going to be looking for spots to park. Victoria Street already does not have enough parking for the people who live on Victoria. How are we going to solve that problem? We can only park on one side of the street. During the evening, when people are trying to find a place to go, what are we going to do?
There's 4 homes there that are being impacted for residents. I understand. So we'll be looking at Harris, Sewell, Elm. It will be spread out. I'm also going to reach out to people at the Revere Little League that maybe they can help us. Maybe we can pay them some money. There's probably 2 or 3 spots they could put in the driveway that we may be able to utilize. I don't know if they'll go along with that, but hopefully that may allow them to make a little bit of money and also eliminate some of the congestion.
On one side of the parking lot, there are occasions when I know one of my neighbors doesn't have a driveway at all. They need to park on the other side of the street and get ticketed. How about you don't ticket us if we have to park on that side of the street?
That's something I'll leave up to the traffic division of the Revere Police Department. I'm sure we can work something out that if the residents are impacted, that can be overlooked. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
I see by the chart that the city water and the gas, national grid gas, is like on the other side of the street.
Yes.
Is that going to be impacted?
Yes, that's all coming out. All new infrastructure will be put on that side, and that's where the new sewer main will be coming down.
Because I live beyond Beach Street on Winthrop Ave, between Beach Street and Broadway. So I wondered if that will affect us.
Well, there's isolation valves in between that can be shut down, so your service will not be impacted. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
I have a suggestion. I live on Victoria Street, and as it is now, just with the pump station up there, when we come up Victoria Street, we have to take a left. We can't see who's coming. The police officers are on the other side of that temporary pump that's set up there. So we're trying to come up, the cars are coming, kids are crossing, the bus is coming. It's ridiculous. So that's already a problem, and I know once it's closed from Harris Street up, that'll probably alleviate that problem. But until then, could the police officers stand up closer to Victoria Street?
I will pass that on to the detail officer to make sure that there is somebody there.
Yeah, and the other problem is at the bottom of Vinyl Street when they're coming off the Parkway by the gas station. People go in the gas station, think that street is just a pathway to the gas station as it is. So if you're going to have additional traffic coming down past the condos, they're going to be taking a right trying to come up Victoria Street. Why don't you close Victoria Street at Winthrop Ave and put for residents only and let us go up that way? Instead of us trying to go up and take the turn, we could go down Vinyl Street and get out, we need to go on our business. It'd be a lot safer for the kids on the street.
We could make that suggestion to the Revere Police Department for you and see how that goes from there. Because like I said, this is a work in progress. This is not etched in stone. If we see problems arising, we're going to be flexible to make changes in the traffic pattern to ease the burden on the residents that live there. I understand. Anybody? Yes, ma'am. Excuse me? I believe the school department does have a plan, and the parents will be notified beforehand how the pickups and the drop-offs will be handled. Okay, at this time, I'm going to turn this over to Mayor Dan Rizzo for some closing comments, and I want to thank you for your time in coming. And once again, just call at any time. Myself, Nick Reisstrom, John Doherty, we're all there to listen to your concerns and help you out wherever we can. Thank you once again. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Donnie. Donnie, thank you. It seems since I left, we had further technical difficulties. I don't know what it is. It's all brand new equipment. So hopefully, most of your questions have been answered. As I said at the outset, it is going to be difficult, and we're going to try and go as fast and expeditiously and with quality workmanship as we possibly can. We are going to continue to reach out to all of you. This isn't the only time you're going to hear from us. We're going to try to keep you as informed as we possibly can as we get information from the MBTA or from our contractor. This is kind of still a very fluid process. So please, if you have concerns, you have questions, you can reach out to my office. You can reach out to the Superintendent of Public Works. He's there to help. Your ward counselors, who, by the way, you'll notice on the programs, for those of you that took a program this morning, there's a couple other counselors that are on there, and I'd like to call on each one of them just for some very brief closing remarks. But before I do, there's a couple counselors that came into the room since we started. I want to recognize them, and I think I don't think they were here beforehand. I see out in the hallway Councilor Steve Reardon. We have Councilor Zambuto that's here with us. Councilor Brian Origo came in, and I think that is it, right? So, Councilor Correggio, were you here at the beginning? Okay, Councilor Correggio's here. So I'd like to call now on John Powers, because I know, as you know, this kind of sits in the middle of a couple of wards. Harris Street is at the end of Winthrop Ave, and so Councilor Powers is the ward council for Ward 5. So his constituency is really going to be impacted as well. So he wants to say a couple words. So if I could call on John.
Man, I see this as a big traffic problem. somebody has to alert the police to control the traffic on Broadway if you're going to run it that way in Central Avenue. You go down Broadway at 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, forget it. That's why they're cutting through Harris Street and cutting through all these back streets, because the traffic is horrendous. Somebody's got to control the lights. We're going to have a big traffic problem.
Look, I said from the beginning, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem. So here's our options. We leave the pipe alone, we don't fix it, and we just kind of take our chances that somehow this external pump will continue to go. We have to go in there and fix it. It's 24 feet under the ground. So we're going to do our very best. Of course, no one here said you're not going to have any inconvenience. It is, but we're going to try to minimize it, and it's a very fluid process. So as we go along, and as you alluded to, yeah, Broadway, like a lot of other cities and towns with their main streets, gets impacted at rush hour. That's why they call it rush hour. It's all over the state. It's all over the country. We all have to deal with those peak hours. This is going to add some traffic to an already congested street. We will work very closely with the chief of police and his traffic division, along with our experts here at our engineering firm of CDM Smith, and our residents who can tell us. Like, I learned some stuff here tonight. Mary brought up some very, very valid points. I heard a bunch of valid points here that were brought up by different residents about cutting through, Ambassador North or the condos up there. These are things we need to learn about. But, it doesn't do me any good as mayor to sit here and complain to you about how much traffic we're going to have. My job is to make sure that we minimize it as much as we can. And if that means putting extra detail police out in the street, we will do that. If that means putting extra detail police up directly in that vicinity where the work's being done, we will do that. We're going to do everything we possibly can to make sure that you're impacted as little as we can. But don't walk out of here thinking, oh, geez, I'm not going to see anything, I'm not going to see any negative impacts as a result of this project. Of course, there's going to be. And I'm going to be impacted. I got to travel the other part of the city all the time. I mean, we're all going to be inconvenienced. And it's, but as I say, I'm hoping in 6 months this will be a distant memory for all of us. So I appreciate your frustration, and nobody wants to have to go through this, least of all me. There's nothing I gain as mayor of this city to have this project go forward, right? But I have to do it because you people are really at risk of not just having sewer problems. There's other very major problems that could happen as a result of this break that, quite honestly, I really don't want to get into all of that, but we need to address this. It is an absolute emergency, and all we're asking for is a little patience and a little cooperation. If we, as I say, if there's something you can bring to our attention that could make this better or easier on your neighborhoods, we're open to suggestions. And this attitude and this representation will hold true through the entire project. So please call our office if you think we can make it better. And that's all I can say about that. So with that, I want to bring up Councilor John Powers to just say a couple words.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you all for attending here today. It's great when we have community input. I want to thank Mayor Rizzo because this meeting was scheduled at the request of Councilor Penta and myself, whose wards are directly impacted by this problem. Like Dan said, it's no nice thing to have raw sewage in your basements because of a breakdown in a pipe. This is something that has to be corrected, and it's going to cost the city a considerable amount of money. Hopefully, in the long run, the inflow and infiltration from stormwater that's going into that pipe now will negate some of the costs of putting this new pipe in service. I just want to say that I know Councilor Penta gave you his phone number, my phone number. If you have a pencil, if you don't, it's on TV on the local channel. It's 781-888-5665. I'm in this city 7/24, 7 days a week. If you have a problem and you feel it's not being addressed, you can call myself, or you can call Councilor Penta, and we'll make sure that that problem is resolved. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Council Powers, thank you. And the other name on that list, for those of you who may have noticed, is Councilor Novoselsky. So did you have anything specific, Councilor, that you'd like to add? Okay, well, I appreciate your attendance. As I say, and Skip, I didn't mean to sound so direct with that, but it's frustrating to me. We've been working on this, and believe me, if I could blink and make this all go away, that is the first thing I would do. I don't want to spend the money and the resources and upset our residents. But believe me, at the end of this, you're going to be much better served, and it's going to be worth really, we have to do it, but at the end of the day, all of you are going to be much better served with respect to your infrastructure as a result of this project. So, like I said at the outset again, wish I didn't have to do it on an emergency basis, but someday it would have had to be done. We're doing it now, and I appreciate all you guys being here today. I know it's a Saturday, you got other things you could have been doing, but if you need us, we're here, okay? So thanks so much for coming.